Nostalgia is a funny thing. Real good old fashioned nostalgia, the kind that makes you feel something when you rediscover a game, a movie, art, or some kind of music. Tomb Raider 1 is such a well of nostalgia for me. To clarify, I never played it when I was younger. I watched my mother beat this game from start to finish. Maybe 5 minutes here and there, but nothing more than picking up a controller and having a go. Tomb Raider came out in 1996 and was developed by Core Design, a British game studio. So I would have been between the ages of 2 and 6 when this game was released, or at least when I first experienced it. I have so many broken memories of Tomb Raider, things I swear that happened but clearly didn't. For example, for years I was convinced the last boss, or this fucker right here, was a plant monster. This is probably me just misremembering something, as I also watched a lot of the other Tomb Raider games around these years as well. I've no idea which one has a dragon coming out of a portal in it, but I remember that one too. I'm sure I'll find out soon. But nostalgia has this effect on my adult brain that can't be compared. Certain sounds, the way the water looks, the gorillas, they all send dopamine deep into my fleshy mound, resulting in such a satisfying feeling, like you're being welcomed home. Speaking of adult brains, what did I think of Tomb Raider? Now I'm older and I have the patience and skills to beat it. Spoilers, it's not an easy game. I think this game is incredibly good. I'm so surprised we don't have more copies of it, honestly. Don't misunderstand, lots of games were inspired by Tomb Raider, but there isn't much out there, or if anything, that really emulates the moment-to-moment gameplay that Tomb Raider has. I was so incredibly impressed with it. I can see why it became such a huge franchise with this game really laying the groundwork. And just to clarify, for this review, we'll be playing the recently released Tomb Raider HD collection for the PS5. When it comes to Tomb Raider, be ready to find a slow and methodical action puzzle platformer with amazing atmosphere and gameplay. But if I was to be objective for a moment, it does have a lot of shortcomings, and we're going to explore those in this review. Starting with the premise and general gameplay. We control Lara Croft, big cool Tomb Raider who likes to get lost in snowy below zero mountains wearing absolutely nothing and somehow never getting frostbite. After our guy gets mauled by wolves, we find ourselves in the first stage of the game, the Caves of Nepal, and we gain control of our character. Lara lets a man die so she can gain all the glory. And the first thing you'll notice is this game runs on tank controls. And what does that mean? Well, up on the D-pad will always move you forward, regardless of the camera position or how Lara is facing. I love this control scheme. I can see why people don't get on with it, but I've always enjoyed tank controls. Having to be mindful in your movements adds an extra layer of difficulty and reward for me. Movement doesn't become a subconscious action. I'm sure lots of you can pick up a new game and immediately get it. But with tank controls, adds that little extra layer of complexity that I really enjoy. Relevant to mention here as well, as an addition to this HD collection, there's also an option for a modern control scheme, giving you full 3D movement. A nice touch for a new player who's not used to older controls. I think seeing Lara run around like this is kinda cursed, but it's nice to have that option there for new players. To cover some more basics, we have our jump button, our gun button, roly-poly, and a slow walk. But be warned, grabbing onto things requires a manual input, so you won't be auto-grabbing any ledges, so make sure you press that button when you jump. There are also some advanced moves like a spin jump and backflips, all great additions, but I've never really found a use for them, but I'm sure some speedrunners love that kind of shit. If I knew how to use them properly, I'm sure they'd be great, but I don't. Something I also found surprising about this game, one thing that I didn't remember at all is most of the enemies you're fighting will be animals. Starting off with wolves and cave lions, going on to bears and gorillas. You do fight human enemies and we will get into them because they are a treat, but for now we'll be doing exactly what the game advertises. Exploring a tomb, but in search of what? We've been hired by this very blonde lady, Natla, a very evil name. Hired to find something called a scion? I could be saying that wrong, please correct me if I am.
Scion.
Or part of a scion to be exact. For what reason we don't know yet, but I'm sure it's for totally goodwill benefiting reasons. So each stage of Tomb Raider is broken into what I would call locations. With each location you have 3 or 4 individual stages to make your way through. Starting with the mountains of Peru, then on to Greece, Egypt, famously good for tomb raiding, and Atlantis? We'll get back to that one. So while in Peru we get introduced to the general flow of this game. Lots of jumping and platforming, a lot more than I was expecting if I'm honest. I knew this game had puzzles, key finding, switch pulling, maze-like level design, but platforming? You could easily say this game is a 3D platformer with those extra elements thrown in. I was surprised by it. Impressed, but this also contributes to the difficulty. As I previously mentioned, Tomb Raider has tank controls, so positioning can be difficult at times, along with Lara's funky jump. To explain, so Lara can only jump from a standing position or her third step in her run cycle. You have to be very careful and very precise when jumping around and grabbing things in this game, as it can often lead to her falling to her death, which, you know, sucks beans. Now, I'm not going to call this bad because I really don't think it is. It's deliberate and thought out platforming, and I loved every bit of it, although it caused me some frustration at times. For example, there are a few sections in this game that ask you to be fast. This control scheme doesn't really allow that kind of movement easily, which does mean lots and lots and lots of deaths. This game really would have benefited from a rewind function, like Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. But never fear, gamers! This version of the game has the amazing feature of saving anywhere, a feature that I abused and maybe overused. Now, I can't imagine having to play this game without this save feature. My playtime would have been doubled easily. I think the original had set save points with save crystals, but I'm not 100% certain on this. And googling is hard. So after jumping, key finding and dying a lot, we find our first chunk of the Skion, along with these strange looking statues. And we encounter our first human enemy, the southern haughty Larson Conway. Conway. I'm Larson Conway, y'all!
Well, you have my total attention now. I'm not quite sure if I've got yours, though. Hello?
I'll heel and hide you to a barn door yet.
Of course.
You and that driveling piece of the Skion.
He works for Natla, and we evidently get double-crossed by Natla and her goon. We dispatch of him with a sneaking concussion and pick up our first extra weapon, the shotgun. My savior for the rest of this game. Packs a much bigger punch than Lara's starting pistols, but has limited ammo to balance that power. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, T-Rex! Anyway, next location. Next up is Greece, and my least favourite chapter of the game. I felt the level design here was lacking in comparison to the first stage. I didn't really enjoy the puzzles here either, but we do kill Pierre, the second human enemy. I only really remember him though because he follows us around a lot of these stages, taking pot shots like the gimp he is. Fuck you, Pierre. But Greece does have a few interesting things we can go over. Firstly, we can get turned into gold. Ooh, it's bad, but it's cool. Touching the hand of Midas will result in a game over and killing Lara, but it's a really cool death animation, so I do like it. And it's actually a solution to the puzzle in this area, which is probably my favourite chunk of Greece actually. But ultimately, I don't really have much to say here. I did find this whole portion of the game a slog, the sewer level especially. I mean, I like it visually, but I hate the layout. One large room that's slow to navigate with small paths. Ugh, I don't like it. This is probably a good place to mention Tomb Raider's multiple weapons actually. You start with Lara's pistols, infinite ammo guns that are always reliable, but you can also find 3 other weapons, the shotgun, the magnums, and the Uzis. Now I missed both the magnums and the Uzis, as there's secrets to be found in the earlier stages, so you won't be seeing them in most of my gameplay sadly. And also sadly, functionally, all the guns work the same. Every weapon but the pistols have limited ammo pools, some are faster, some are stronger, but there's no real difference in gameplay depending on which gun you pick. I say pick, fine, you know what I mean. Now before we move on to my favourite chunk of the game, here's a little sizzle reel of Greece. Egypt! Man, the game picked right up back here for me. The platforming gets way better, the areas are much more enjoyable to explore, the game gets into this flow state where the exploration and discovery and the combat, they just blend together to this perfect experience. And I think by this time of the game you're so well tuned with the controls that everything just fits together wonderfully. No more smelly tunnels or sewers. And we also have new enemies to fight, these strange mummy things. Honestly, this is where Tomb Raider reaches its highs for me. Oh, and I didn't mention earlier, we do fight one of the mummy things in Greece. There's less of a mummy and more of a Mega Man boss fight. Each of the Egypt stages are so memorable and perfectly paced. It's for sure my favourite chunk of the game. My only gripe would have to be the Sphinx stage. Design-wise, it's very similar to the Smelly Sewer stage. Large room with multiple little paths. Famously, I don't like it. But it is saved. The giant Sphinx in the middle of the stage makes you feel much grander and much more special. The time becomes much more enjoyable going down these little paths. A lot more interesting to explore for sure. Egypt's design is honestly great and really memorable, full of really special looking set pieces. Leagues above the first 2 locations for sure. It makes me wonder if Peru and Greece were developed before Egypt, by the team over at Core Design. It feels like all the aspects of the game come together perfectly in Egypt, so that's where my thoughts come from there. I have no evidence to back this up, but it just feels right. You've probably also noticed that throughout this video, I keep changing the graphics. This collection also comes packaged with the new Halo-style graphics modes. I say Halo because I think that was the first to do it. With a flick of a button, wham, pretty graphics. Which is pretty hit or miss for me. Mostly with lighting issues in some areas. So I can easily see you jumping back and forth the new and the old graphics just to find out where you're going properly. At least that's what I did, as I found some of the modern areas, the dark was a bit too dark to really figure out where to go. 60 frames per second Laura is really nice to see though. Ending Egypt, we run into Larson again, this time killing him for good. Yo, he's kinda hot though! Kinda hot in these graphics. But when all seems well and we have 3 parts to the scale on, Laura gets ambushed outside of the temple by Natla and her goons. Oh no! Oh no!
You just pulled the tough end of a wishbone.
Oh no!
Howdy.
Afternoon.
Left Larson sucking wind then, eh?
Sucking wind?
Phrase.
Well, your little vacation riot's over now. Time to give back what you've hijacked off me.
Let's try the lunchbox.
Natla's kinda hot, the bad guy. Look at her, she's kinda hot though.
Well, kill her! You morons!
Left Larson sucking cock, eh?
Let's go.
It's sad we don't see more of these guys, as the game could have done with more development for his villains, more than, following you around Greece and shooting you like a dick, Pierre. Escaping the ambush and sneaking onto Natla's boat, the loudest way possible by the way, we find ourselves in the last area of the game, Natla's mines. And without any weapons, we have to use our wits to survive. This just results in a very tricky first stage, finding 3 fuses to drop this giant room and grab our pistols. Why are they up there? I don't know. And at this point in the game, we've stopped killing innocent animals and mostly deal with flesh mummies along with Natla's henchmen. I'll stop calling them mummies, we'll call them Atlanteans now. The Atlanteans like to gang up on you or shoot pellets at you. They're fuckers to deal with, I hate them. The henchmen are all but forgettable except one. In a bizarre change of tone, one of the bosses is a skateboarding 90s kid with Uzis. It's so out of the blue, even this arena is shaped like a kind of a skate park. I was really taken aback by how silly this is in this game, but I did really love it. Killing him finally granted me the Uzis, the best guns in the game. These things are beastly, definitely the most effective weapons. Again, functionally the same as everything else. Practically, everything dies in 3 seconds. Deeper and deeper we descend into the mines. We descend until we find... Flesh World?
Surprise. Flesh World.
This took a very strange turn. I guess we need a little story catch up. So Natla, the evil blonde lady, is actually an Atlantean. And this place we are in is Atlantis. Or at least part of it. I'm assuming this is like Natla's labs or something, as she's been making the red fleshy monsters we've been killing in this game. We are shown in a cutscene that she gets sealed away by her fellow Atlantean eons ago. But now she's back, and here to enact her evil schemes. What are they? I don't know. She wants to make evil creatures and destroy the world, or rule the world, I guess. Standard stuff. Now the last 2 stages are real meat mazes. And what a reward they are. Very fun and interesting to explore, very visually different to the rest of the game. And fairly simple to navigate as well. All of this leading up to the completed Skion. We try and take it back, but the mastermind of evil here tries to stop us. But she doesn't know, Lara is a practiced killer. And here we finally have it, folks. The moment you've all been waiting for. We get to kill the plant monster? Wait, what the fuck? It's not a plant. What's going on? Now I can only assume my childhood brain turned all the red to green? Don't know why. He's not a difficult fight though. Intimidating for sure, but not difficult. We fight him in a very small arena, and this kind of highlights where Tomb Raider could really do with some improvement. Now I haven't really touched on the combat yet because it's probably where the game is at its weakest. Tomb Raider never uses this environment to its advantage, like it does in this last fight. The level design never really complements the combat, which is a huge letdown. As they can do it, it's done right in this final fight here. Without the death pits and close quarters battle, this fight wouldn't really be a fight, like the rest of the game. But adding more stage hazards or maybe cover or ways to break aggro on enemies really make the game a lot more interesting when it comes to that combat, and not just the endurance battle that most of combat devolves into. I hope you've been looking for those health packs, but making quick work of Pegzilla, we defeat the final boss and make our way back around to collect the Scion. Doing so starts a self-destruct sequence, so we start our escape, but not before one last problem. The last room of the game is an extremely high climb, and we are confronted again by Natla, this time with some silly wings and Mega Man arm blasters thrown in. Now this fight I feel like is another good example of the combat, because by positioning myself here, I make very short work of Natla with the Uzis. Twice, as she gets back up. A nice little twist, as I really wasn't expecting that at all. So to go on a slight tangent, I think I've realised why I don't like some of the combat in this game. I just realised while recording this audio. A lot of the Atlantean enemies have the Mega Man arm blasters, like Natla, right? And they shoot like really slow pellets that you can dodge, and I think that's a really good design for the enemies. A lot of the human enemies have hit scan weapons you can't dodge at all, and I think it really bogs down the game and turns the battles into endurance fights. So I think take away the hit scan enemies, have more enemies with dodgeable projectiles, I think that would raise the game up for me. Anyway, back to the ending. Climb, jump, jump, slide, and we escape. Laura swims back to the boat she stowed away on, and with the island erupting in the background, her adventure is over. And so is ours. I'm so happy I finally played Tomb Raider. It's been on my list since I was very young. To go back and find a game that's so unique and full of charm was really wonderful. Lara Croft became a household name after this game, shooting core design up to success, leading to a franchise that's still going strong today. Honourable mention to 2013's Tomb Raider reboot. I love that game to bits. I'm really looking forward to playing the rest of the classic series after this, and this collection is a wonderful way to experience it, so I really would recommend it. I picked it up for sale, but even at full price, I'd say it's well worth it. I should clarify this only comes with the first 3 Tomb Raider games, and I believe there's 5 Tomb Raider games on the PlayStation 1. Now before I go, I want to leave you with something really special. I thought it'd be both funny and appropriate to leave you with a quote from my mother regarding Tomb Raider. For context, I asked her why she liked Tomb Raider so much and what was so good about it. Here was her answer.